What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of Prim and Proper Sports tonight. I know you guys were probably expecting Miss Sonja Pearson to be your host tonight, but unfortunately, she is a little bit under the weather. So I have been asked to step in. My name is CJ, the Painkiller DeSimone, and I am the host of Weapon Top Mission Briefs, normally on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the Roku channel here on Northeast Streaming Sports. It's my privilege to sit in for Sonja tonight, as she is, as I said, a little bit under the weather. We wish for a speedy recovery for her, and I hope that she's back with us real soon. So that being said, let's get on with tonight's show. Now, I really don't have a plethora of topics planned, and I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like I do much better when I kind of just talk off the hip. So tonight, I've kind of been given a little bit of carte blanche, a little bit of leniency about what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk a little football. We're going to talk a little NFL draft. We're going to talk a little New York Jets. Yes, I know, everybody's favorite subject. We're also going to talk a little bit of the NHL and NHL playoffs. As my beloved New York Rangers, as you guys see from my T-shirt over here, last night clinched pretty much, as I like to call the trifecta. They clinched the President's Trophy for the best regular season record in the NHL. Clinched the Eastern Conference, which is the number one seed overall, which ensures them home ice advantage throughout the playoffs as far as they go, and also clinches them the Metropolitan Division title, something that they have not won for a little bit. So, for the most part, very pleased to where the New York Rangers are going. However, it's still unknown as to who's going to be their opponent in the first round, as we still have 2 more days of NHL action, which are pretty much going to determine who is going to be that wild card number 2 and facing the New York Rangers in the first round of the Eastern Conference, in the Eastern Conference playoffs, or the Stanley Cup playoffs, should I say. So, should be fun. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, just some other things that I want to talk about, just in regards to our sport. Some are sports related, some aren't. So tonight's going to be a mixed bag, so to speak. So again, if you anybody who's watching the show, anybody who wants to comment, please feel free to drop a comment. All right. If you guys have any questions, you want to ask me any questions on the air, by all means, go right ahead. Miss Arlene Smith, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate you. I'm sure Miss Sonja appreciates you, as she's watching live, hopefully from bed and resting, as she needs to do, so she can get herself better. So let's see. Well, first things first, what I normally do on my show, and I always say hi to Mom. Hi, Mom. I know the background I'm actually going to remove my background for a second, just because I want you guys to see Mom. So there's my regular office. So you know what? We'll keep it like that. It's pretty cool. That's Mom. Hi, Mom. This upcoming June is going to be 3 years since she passed. My mother, believe it or not, ever since I first started doing podcasts back on Blog Talk Radio, she used to listen to almost every single one of my podcasts, courtesy of the Amazon tablet that I got her. That noise you hear in the background, that's my puppy Oliver going nuts, because I'm sure there's probably somebody walking by who he wants them to say hi and play with him and all that good stuff. So I do apologize for that in the interim. So as we get the background back on, let's get ourselves ready to go. And, we are going to have ourselves some fun, just like as I always do, because, this is just how I roll. And I'm sure Sonja's not going to mind. So right now we got about 5 people watching. I'd like to say thank you to everybody who is tuning in tonight to join me, CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, at the helm for Prim and Proper Sports. So as we talk about a little bit of everything tonight. So, all right. So let's kick it off with the NFL draft, shall we? Now, pretty much all of New York Jets Nation got themselves absolutely up in a tizzy. An absolute up in a tizzy by a story that came out that the New York Jets were trading the number 10 pick to the Indianapolis Colts. Well, that rumor has not been confirmed. However, there is significant noise that the Indianapolis Colts are interested in trading up in the NFL draft. And of course, the New York Jets would be one of those teams that hold a top 10 pick. And I'm sure very much that they would love to do nothing more than to make a swap with the New York Jets to try and get the guy that they're looking for. Now, the New York Jets sit in a very, very unique position. A lot of people have them penciled in as selecting Brock Bowers with the number 10 pick. There are a couple of other mock drafts where they have them taking a couple of different offensive linemen. You know, everything is just... You know I got you. Come on now. This is fun for me. I appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you. All right. So, you know, one of the things that I look at in retrospect with the NFL draft, put it this way, you know, the New York Jets have two options. They could either take a player who they figured that they could be on their board, who was going to be high up on their board, or they could trade back. I have been of the opinion, which I've said on my show and several other shows that I've been on, that I would like to see the New York Jets trade back. And the reason being is because this is the first draft that I've seen in a little while where you are very deep at the skill position players, wide receiver, and you are also very deep in very, very good offensive linemen. So, if the Jets are able to trade out of number 10, get a lower pick somewhere else on the board, and also be able to recoup that second round pick, which they lost, which they traded away, this would immensely help the Jets. And you know that the Indianapolis Colts may have to, if they have any intention of moving up to the top 10, you are going to have to overpay for a little bit. Because we know Joe Douglas, and Joe Douglas is simply not going to bend over and let himself get shafted because somebody else wants to come up and take their guy. So we are just completely, let me stop right here for a second. The Carolina Pantherettes are in the house. Thank you for joining the show tonight. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys with the support. How you guys doing? I love you guys. Thank you. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. I really do. And thank you for supporting Sonja and Sonja's endeavor here and supporting Sonja's show. Spread the word. So we're going to have some fun today. So it's going to be a mishmash. I'm telling you, it's going to be a mishmash. I'm going to be all over the place. All right. So getting back to the NFL draft. Anybody who's going to be trading up to number 10, all right, you're going to probably end up overpaying for that pick for a little bit. So I think the New York Jets are probably going to be, I don't want to say that they're going to get a king's ransom, but they should be getting a nice package to trade out of the number 10 spot to, again, get another quality offensive lineman who could theoretically end up being a backup this year and being able to contribute on that offensive line. Because even though the New York Jets, on paper, are a much, much better, much more well-rounded football team than they were back in 2023 going into the season, the game is not played on paper. The New York Jets season ended 4 plays into the first game on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. Plain and simple. That's what happened. So now, the New York Jets are all in. They push their chips to the center of the table. And if Joe Douglas wants to continue building what he's got here, you want to continue the all-in philosophy, you could trade out of 10, get yourself some assets, and you could also utilize those picks to patch up some other holes on the team. So, NFL drafts is going to be interesting. It really is. Now, there's a part of me that wishes I kind of followed college football a little bit closer than I do. I used to be a Florida Gators fan. I still check in on the Gators every now and again. FSU plays down here, so of course you can't not watch them because everything is flooded with it. Every once in a while, you'll get a University of Miami game. UCF is here, of course, being in Central Florida. So, I wish that I paid attention to it more. But just to me, the whole allure of college football has lost its luster. And I really wish that they would actually put in a bona fide playoff system where people like me that are an extremely casual fan might actually want to pay attention to and actually look at. Because we always have these arguments about undefeated teams not getting into the national championship game. And then everybody starts talking about strength of schedule. And then they start talking about this and they start talking about that. And now you have your top 4 teams. And then everybody's like, oh, well, the committee has to vote. If the committee can vote for 4 teams, they very well can expand it to 8 or maybe even 12 and do like a pseudo miniaturized version of the NCAA tournament. No, I'm not saying let's get 64 football teams and have them go bracket here, bracket there. No, that's absolute insanity. Okay? But I still think you could actually put together some sort of a playoff system in which you can still utilize the bowls. You could just have a bowl like, okay, the Rose Bowl and the Peach Bowl. And the winner of the Rose Bowl, the winner of the Peach Bowl is now going to play in the Casserole Bowl or whatever. As they move up for the national championship. I don't know. I know that there's a lot of money tied up in the bowls, so that's why a lot of people probably won't talk about it. But a lot of teams, a lot of people are going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Carolina Panthers. All right, your entire franchise currently in transition. You got a new head coach, got a couple of solid free agents, which came your way. You guys end up having a solid draft. And you could potentially start to see yourselves on the upswing. So don't lose hope, because not too long ago the New York Jets were right where you guys are right now. So trust me, it does happen, and it can happen for the better. So that being said, NFL draft coming up very, very soon. We are staring down the barrel, and here's probably the best advice that I could give anybody who's reads articles about the NFL draft. They follow players. They're watching video. They're looking at mock draft here or mock draft there or mock draft wherever. Don't believe the hype when it comes to mock drafts, because there is a consensus that the top 10 is already solidified. And we've seen Michael Penix Jr. now being mentioned in the top 10. We're seeing Bo Nix now being mentioned in the top 10. We're seeing a couple other people, the people I never even heard of. Now, he could be a early to mid first round pick or whatever. Don't believe the hype when it comes to mock drafts. Have fun with it. Make your own. You have a favorite football team and where they're drafting or whatever, you could go on the NFL mock draft simulator and stuff. There's a ton of websites that do mock draft simulators. You could make up trades and so on and so forth. I remember a couple of years ago, I played around with it. Matter of fact, it was 2020 when I did it. And the reason why I did it in 2020 was I was actually, during the NFL draft, I was actually supposed to do a show, and I ended up getting COVID. So back then, I was the host of Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And my crew there, Kevin Jackson, Jimmy Jardine, Harrison Glazer, they had a couple other people who had jumped in to help out. They did the draft show. And it was, like a couple weeks before, I had a couple of, hey, Sonja, please get better. Please get better. So then I played around with the mock drafts just for shits and giggles, just to see what would happen. And then you pull off crazy trades and stuff, and I mean, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to play around with it. I mean, for me, it was like, hey, what the hell? Well, let's see if the Jets did this, or let's see if they trade out of this spot, or what would you do if we did this? So, I mean, it's always fun to play around with it and see exactly what happens. So, if that's what you're into, dude, roll with it. But don't believe the hype around it, because we really don't know who's going to be selected. I mean, look, I remember when the Jets selected Sam Darnold, right? All off season, Sam Darnold was going number 1 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Draft day, Baker Mayfield got drafted number 1 overall, and Sam Darnold got drafted 3rd to the New York Jets. But there were a ton of different mock drafts that said the quarterbacks will all go in 1, 2, 3, 4. Who's going here? And that was actually before the Jets had actually made the deal to trade up to the 3rd spot. And they were in 6th. And we were all like, yo, if Baker Mayfield's there, take him or Lamar Jackson. And I remember my buddy Carlos Sardinas, who was actually one of my co-hosts when I first started doing podcasts and stuff. He was even a big proponent of it. So we had a lot of fun with it, doing different mock drafts and different scenarios and playing around with it here and there, just for shits and giggles, But everybody had their top 10, and their top 10 was like busted within the first pick. So if it was an NCAA bracket, you know how everybody does their brackets of who they got winning the national championship and stuff like that. And you got your paper brackets and, yeah. And then pretty much, within the first 2 hours, you're tearing your bracket up and you're throwing it in the trash. So there we go. Don't believe the hype when it comes to mock drafts, because nothing is set in stone. There's always draft day deals. There's always under the table deals. There's phone calls going on right now as we speak that teams are jockeying for position, or, yeah, man, we're kind of interested in that 5th pick overall. What do you got? So, what do you take for it? And if you don't believe phone calls like that are happening, they are actually happening. So it's just so hilarious. It really is. So, Miss Arlene, it is good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. So now, pretty much all talked out about football. I went on an epic rant on my show a couple of weeks ago about Woody Johnson and the whole trading Zach Wilson. If you guys get a chance to go and see it, go and check it out. Definitely simply for comedy purposes only, for entertainment purposes only. Yes, I encourage you to do it, because I do some funny voices. I did a whole bit, and it was. I thought it was hilarious when I actually watched it the second time around. But of course, it's every team's got their own issue except for the Kansas City Chiefs, which seem to always have even when they have issues, they don't end up becoming an issue. So who the hell knows? All right. So now let's switch gears a little bit. All right. Miss Arlene, it is nice to have you here. I'm glad that you're here. Please spread the word. Tell some friends, get some more people up here. So, now let's talk a little NBA. All right. Playoffs are going to be starting very, very soon. All right. The New York Knicks. I wish Guy Fisher was in the chat. I really do, because he's a diehard Knicks fan. Shout out to my boy Mike Thomas. Sonja, you had to go there, didn't you? you had to go there. You really did. You really did, huh? You really want me to go off the rails with this, huh? I told you I would be good, so I'm gonna be good. But you know, with the NBA playoffs now getting ready to kick off, all right, everybody's gonna get that much needed rest a little bit down the stretch before the second season begins. That would probably be the best way to put it. All right. A lot of people are picking their favorites and stuff like that. The Knicks have actually been thrown around as one of these teams. But, you know. Robbie Butler, thanks for joining in. Fixing to say, Sonja, you look different tonight. I just can't put my finger on it. Listen, Robbie, Sonja is 100 times better looking than me. So, yeah, I mean, look. She does the show more justice than I do. I'm just I'm just wall decoration right here. But thank you for joining the show. I appreciate it. Please spread the word. You know, it's with the NBA playoffs, and unfortunately, because I don't follow basketball with the kind of passion that a lot of people do, and a lot of people are like, dude, you grew up in New York. How are you not a Knicks fan? I had more fun playing football. I had more fun playing basketball than I did actually following it. But I do have a lot of friends that are Knicks fans, and they are like super, super, super happy. And you know what? For everything that the Knicks have achieved this year, you guys deserve it, and you need to enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. So now, let's talk a little NHL. Right in my wheelhouse, right here at the 22-minute mark. All right, so right in front of me, I got the playoff brackets, okay? The Eastern Conference right now is pretty much all sewn up except for one spot, and that is wild card 2. So we are looking at 4 teams that have the opportunity to get one playoff spot. The Washington Capitals are currently in that spot at 89 points. The Detroit Red Wings are right behind them at 89 points. Theoretically, if the season ended today, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia would all be eliminated. But the season ends in a couple of days. So there's still some time. However, you've got the Flyers and the Penguins. They're on life support. They need help. Okay? Washington and Detroit play this evening. I will actually bring up tonight's schedule so that way I can talk about the matchups. But you have the Caps at 89 points. Detroit's also at 89 points. Pittsburgh is at 88 points, 1 point behind. Shout out to my boy Mikey Maynard. And Philadelphia Flyers are right there at 87 points. Now, it is absolutely crazy. Now, tonight, the Capitals or the Red Wings can clinch. If they don't, okay, then everyone's going to have to wait until the Penguins visit the Islanders on Wednesday. And this is what's going on right now. These are your NHL playoff teams right now. The New York Rangers, the Carolina Hurricanes, the New York Islanders, the Boston Bruins, the Florida Panthers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they are all clinched. Now, switching gears to the Western Conference, the Dallas Stars, they're in. Vancouver Canucks, the Winnipeg Jets, the Colorado Avalanche, the Edmonton Oilers, the Los Angeles Kings, the Nashville Predators, and the Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champs, they have all clinched in the West. So the West is pretty much all sealed up. But here's the deal. Here's the funny thing, okay? In the West, everybody's already qualified for the playoffs. Some already know where they are. But there's still a little bit of jockeying. Still a little bit of matchup tinkering that can happen over these next couple of days. So believe it or not, the games within the Western Conference, they actually still have something to play for. for different playoff positioning and different playoff seeding because it could alter who you face in the first round of the playoffs. So, very, very interesting. These are the scenarios for tonight. The Capitals can clinch a win if they can beat the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. The Capitals will clinch that wild card spot, and we put this all to bed. The Flyers will be eliminated. All right. So, however, if the Red Wings will get in if they can beat the Montreal Canadiens and the Capitals lose. So, but there's also, it's not just, there's also regulation and there's also overtime and shootout losses because these are the things that make the playoffs very, very interesting. Now, let me jump back to the Capitals, right? The Caps clinch if they beat the Flyers. They're eliminated Tuesday if they lose in regulation or they lose in overtime or a shootout to the Flyers and the Red Wings win. The Red Wings can clinch if they beat the Montreal Canadiens and the Capitals lose. This is all in regulation. They'll be eliminated if Washington wins in regulation or if Detroit loses in regulation or overtime and the Caps get at least 1 point. So basically, all the Caps have to do is tie tonight, theoretically, in regulation. Get a point and you're in. The Red Wings need more help than the Capitals do at this point. So the Caps right now are literally sitting in the catbird seat. The Penguins, they do not control their own destiny right now. They can't clinch until Wednesday unless they're still alive. But if either Washington or Detroit win, no matter fashion, they are out. And they have nothing to play for. The Flyers can stay alive if they beat the Capitals in regulation and Detroit loses in regulation. They will also have to wait for the result between Pittsburgh and the New York Islanders, which is now going to be a very critical Wednesday night game and going to be much CTV because the Islanders have already clinched their playoff spot. They may win, they may mail it in. They may rest half their starters. It's going to be interesting to see who they're going to roll out. Or are they going to go full tilt and try to put the Penguins to bed? So now, the Flyers will be eliminated if they lose or if they win and Detroit gets at least 1 point. So out of this whole group that I just talked about, right? The Red Wings and the Flyers need the most help. And what's funny about the Flyers is that they pretty much had the number 3 seed in the Metro Division locked up. And then over the last month, I don't know what happened, but they shit the bed. There's no other way for me to say it. They absolutely soiled the bed. Absolutely soiled the bed. Sonja shouting out here from the comments. Arlene and Robert, thanks for joining us and supporting our great host, CJ. Oh, thank you so much. Where are the Avalanche? The Avalanche are located in Colorado. Now, this is interesting too, because Sonja actually sent this to me the moment that it happened. The Phoenix, or should I say the Arizona Coyotes, have been told that they are being relocated. They were basically told before they played their last NHL regulation game that the team is being moved. And that is just, I can't even imagine what that is like. I can't. I just can't. I really can't. So, Sonja is asking if the Colorado Avalanche are in the playoffs. Yes, they are. They are the number 4 seed in the Western Conference. So, thank you for that question. I appreciate that. Yes, they did. Listen, there is no other way to explain a collapse like the Philadelphia Flyers other than the fact that they completely shit the bed. There is no other way to do it. And this is very, very unconventional of a John Tortorella team, especially somebody who is very, very defensive oriented the way that he plays. And he's notorious for his skating drills. He's notorious for shot blocking. And it doesn't matter what position you play, you need to be able to get back, play defense, and block shots. That's what he expects out of you. What's going on, Fluid? Appreciate you joining the show. Thank you. Spread the word. Spread the word. Oh, let's go Canes, huh? Okay. Yes, that is true. Carolina Hurricanes. Well, listen, I ain't going to lie. You guys got a tough match. You were going to have, if I were the Carolina Hurricanes, I would have preferred to play Philadelphia than play the Islanders. Because the Islanders right now are playing their best hockey that they've played all season. And Patrick Roy is pushing all the right buttons right now. So they are a team that, as annoying as they can be, they can upset somebody. So Carolina better put the boot to them, because we already know Carolina is trying to look past the first round to go to the second round, to the potential possibly against the New York Rangers. But the New York Rangers can't afford to look forward and say, oh, well, we're just getting ourselves ready for whoever we play in the second round. Peter Laviolette doesn't do that. Peter Laviolette has had this team playing playoff hockey for the past 2.5 months. There's a reason why the Rangers are the best team in the NHL. And it's because of the fact that they don't quit. And not only that, they almost tied the league record for comeback wins. So the Rangers may be down 1 goal, 2 goals going into the third period. That's where teams need to start shitting themselves, because that's when the New York Rangers play some of their best hockey to push it to overtime. If you don't believe me, go rewatch the Stadium Series game against the Islanders. There is no way in hell, no way, the Rangers should have came back and beaten the Islanders in overtime. But they did. Because the Isles thought that they had that dead to rights. And you know what? The Rangers, in typical New York Ranger fashion, just when you think they're out, they find a way to stay back in. Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, Chris Kreider, and plus you get the unlikely goal from a Barclay Goodrow or even a Keandre Miller. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Going to be very, very, very interesting. Bruins Edwards is retiring as announcer. That I have not heard. I definitely will have to look into that story, so I can't confirm nor deny. But that would be, I'm sure the Boston Bruins fans will probably be very, very nostalgic if that does happen. I mean, sort of like the Yankees and John Sterling, right? There was a huge article that John Sterling was retiring effective immediately because of medical issues. And Michael Kay confirmed through a private conversation that he had with John Sterling that simply is not the case. John Sterling is retired because he's just done. And he's doing the smart thing, because he's just basically saying, like, hey, when I don't have love for the game anymore, or I just feel like I can't do this anymore, that's when he'll walk away. And he's at that point. So you know what? He wants to enjoy whatever is left of his life. So let him go into the sunset. Let him enjoy it. He's had a tremendous career, and he will always, always be known as the voice of the New York Yankees. Same way Mr. Edwards will always be known as the voice of the Boston Bruins. The same way as a New York Rangers fan, I will always look at Sam Rosen and John Davidson being up in the booth when the Rangers won the Cup in '94. All right, I'm always going to look at Sam Rosen as the Rangers announcer. All right, on the radio, There have been a couple of different announcers that have called Rangers games. But Kenny Albert, to me, is the cream of the crop. And believe it or not, there is only one person that does Kenny Albert any kind of justice whatsoever, and that's Don LaGreca. Because with him and Dave Maloney, it's like, I'll shut the announcing off on the television to listen to them on the radio, because just hearing the passion in that is just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, fluid thoughts in here. CJ, I read on an ESPN article that this is the year that a Canadian hockey team can push far in the playoffs. What do you think? You know what? I think they can. I think that out of the Canadian hockey teams that are currently in, all right, Toronto, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Edmonton, those four. If I had to guess, and if I were a betting man, I would bet the Canucks and the Oilers will push. Winnipeg, I don't think is there yet. They are still a player or two away, and they still haven't made up for the loss of Blake Wheeler. But as long as they have Connor Hellebuck in net, you can never, ever count them out. But the Canucks right now, they were actually the NHL's best team for the beginning part of the season. So they are a team that cannot be overlooked whatsoever. And of course, Edmonton Oilers, as long as you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and they are healthy and their defense is actually playing the way that their defense should be, there's no reason to count them out. Toronto, to me, is probably going to be the biggest question mark. And the reason being is because Sonja actually got me some information on Jack Edwards retiring. I'm going to announce that in just a second. Thank you for that, Sonja. The biggest knock on Toronto is that they always fall short in the playoffs. You'll win the first round, you'll get to the second round, and you can't push forward. They need to make a conference finals appearance. They really do. The only way that they're going to be able to blow that stigma off is by getting to an ECF. And if they don't get to an ECF, I don't know. There's always going to be that talk. Now, Austin Matthews is absolutely having he's having a dream season right now with the way that he's playing at the pace that he is scoring. He's almost mirroring Brett Hull. Brett Hull's really good season. I forgot what I think it was either 86 or 87 or whatever with the St. Louis Blues, where I think he scored I want to say 60 or 70 goals, but he was just, I think at one point he was on pace to score 81 or 82 goals at some point during the season because of how much he was scoring. It's just crazy. It really is. But with Toronto, if they cannot make an Eastern Conference final, if they cannot make a Stanley Cup final, the questions are still there's always going to be questions in Toronto. But out of those four, if I had to pick one and you're making me pick one, Vancouver. Because they're probably the toughest draw out of all of them. I mean, you could make an argument for the Oilers. You could make an argument for Winnipeg. You could even make an argument for Toronto. But out of all of that, Vancouver just right now is just really that's the team that everyone's going to be looking at. All right. Hey, great question. Great question. Thank you for that. All right. This is in regards to Jack Edwards. So let's go ahead here. After nearly 2 decades as the Boston Bruins play-by-play announcer on NESN, Jack Edwards has announced his retirement from his dream job following the 2023-24 season. This just released an hour ago. The Bruins will be letting go of a legend. That's for sure. That's for sure. Rangers Stanley Cup opponent as of Tuesday, The Capitals with 89 points based on regulation wins. Tiebreaker over the Red Wings, also 89 points. Penguins of 88 and the Flyers of 87. Yep. And we actually talked about the clinching scenarios where Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are completely on life support right now. And they need both Washington and Detroit to lose in regulation for them to for even to make Wednesday relevant. If the Capitals just get a tie in regulation today, if for whatever reason it's a 1-1 tie going into overtime with Philly, everybody's eliminated, and it doesn't make it. It doesn't do anybody any good. That's why tonight, Washington's game and Detroit's game is going to be critical, because if Philly beats Washington to stay alive in regulation, and Detroit can find a way to win in regulation against Montreal, woo! Wednesday is going to be sick. If you are an Eastern Conference hockey fan, if you are just an NHL fan at all, these next 2 days, this is what you live for. This is what you enjoy. This is what being a hockey fan is all about. Knowing that you got to take care of your business, but you also need one of your enemies to take care of their business over there too. And you need somebody else to lose. This is what playoff hockey is all about. And you know what? If the Rangers do end up facing the Capitals in the first round, which I think right now, I was reading on Bleacher Report, right now I think there's their sports statistics system has them at like an 83% chance, which is pretty much almost guaranteed. I can't wait to talk about the Rangers-Capitals matchup. I can't wait. Because that series, with everything that Washington being left for dead, scratching and clawing all the way to wild card 2, if the Rangers are not careful, oof. Yeah. Oof. This is the reason why, to me, like last year, okay? I'll bring up last year as an example. Bruins played the Florida Panthers, right? Florida Panthers had to scratch and claw the last almost month of the season just to get to wild card 2. What happens? We all remember what happened. Boston Bruins, who set NHL records for wins, points, whatever, they got eliminated in 7 games. Florida Panthers steamrolled their way to a Stanley Cup Finals appearance, in which they obviously succumbed to the Vegas Golden Knights, winning their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. So, you think upsets don't happen in hockey? Upsets can happen. And we see 8 seeds. We see 7 seeds upset 2s. We see different matchups with teams that you say to yourself, well, how the hell did they lose that series? The Rangers did it a couple of years ago under Gerard Gallant. They were down in back-to-back series, 3-1 in the first round against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then the second round against Carolina Hurricanes. Both series went 7 games. Both series, the Rangers won in 7 games. And they eventually succumbed to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Eastern Conference Finals. But the Rangers were just supposed to be happy making the playoffs because they were in the midst of a rebuild. And they were right ahead of schedule. So, again, even last year, when the Rangers got eliminated in the first round, right? The New Jersey Devils coming into this season, there was big things expected because of how well they played last year. And this year, goaltending issues, no Dougie Hamilton, losing half their key guys at different points of the season. Crazy. Just crazy. You know, and it also shows that injuries are a big part of the game. So now we still haven't talked about some of the other stuff. Okay. Now getting back to the East, because there are still a couple of scenarios and things that can happen with some wins and losses. The Bruins tonight can clinch the Atlantic Division title if they beat the Ottawa Senators, or if they get 1 point and the Florida Panthers lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Panthers can clinch the Atlantic Division title if they beat the Maple Leafs and the Bruins lose to the Senators. They can also clinch if they get 1 point and the Bruins lose in regulation. So you still have a division title that's up for grabs in the Atlantic Division. Now, going over to the Western Conference, the Canucks, they can clinch the Pacific Division title if they get at least a point against Calgary Flames. The Dallas Stars, that are idle tonight, can win the Western Conference title if the Canucks lose tonight. Winnipeg Jets will clinch the number 2 seed in the Central Division if they get at least 1 point against the Seattle Kraken. That's a team that disappointed me this year because the Kraken, they had a playoff. They were in the playoffs last year, and they actually made some noise, and they were expected to step up, and they were actually projected to make the Western Conference Finals this year. So I'm sure that there's going to be some retooling going on within the Kraken during the offseason. But the idle Nashville Predators will clinch the first wildcard spot in the Western Conference if Vegas loses to the Blackhawks. So Vegas has got some business to take care of. And this is what I said earlier, where in the Western Conference, everybody's already got their stuff. Everybody's already got their spots all locked up. But you win a division title, you have home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. If you can go and clinch a 2 seed or a 3 seed, it doesn't matter within your division because you're playing each other one at a time. The only difference is it seems though that home ice advantage through that series is if you get the 2 seed or if you get the 3 seed. If you get the 2 seed, you get your home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. So, and then it all, as you advance, it all depends on seeding. So, it's these next 2 days, if you are a hockey fan, your ass is glued to that couch with a big old bucket of popcorn like this, and whatever your beverage of choice is right here, or get the helmet with the 2 straws that go right over here, where you have the beer cans and stuff. Yeah, that's what you're doing these next 2 games, these next 2 days, if you are a hockey fan. All right, so really quick, check out Prim and Proper Sports, Mission Briefs. Mission Briefs hot and tons of other unlimited sports on Roku TV. Follow us on Northeast Streaming Sports. And of course, this show will in fact re-air at 2 a.m. on April 17th on Roku, Northeast Streaming Sports. Download the free app and subscribe. Prim and Proper is asking, do I believe the Rangers will take it all? Well, there are a lot of factors that are working in the New York Rangers' favor. We are we're right along the same pipeline as everything that happened in 1994. New York Knicks were a 2 seed. New York Rangers won the President's Trophy. They had clinched they had then clinched the Patrick Division Championship, and they were the number 1 seed overall in the Eastern Conference. So they had a pretty tough road getting to the Stanley Cup Finals in 1994. So let's see, because Mike Keenan was brought in that season. He was only Rangers head coach for 1 year. But they also made a series of trades which brought over, they traded a lot of young kids. They traded the Tony Amontes. They traded Doug Waite. They brought over Esa Tikkanen. They brought over Stefan Matteau. They made the trade for Brian Noonan. So, I don't know. But for me, I could make an argument for at least 3 or 4 different teams why they should represent the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Final. And the Rangers are one of those teams. Yes, they are. Do I think that they have what it takes to win it all? I think they can. Do I think they will? That Depends on Laviolette and company. That's my as honest an answer as I can give you without being homeristic. All right, so really quick, fluid thoughts. CJ, it seems as if professional hockey's popularity has taken a jump considering 2023-24 season attendance was record-setting. The Rangers-Islanders game had 80,000 viewers outdoors. Yes. As a matter of fact, even with 2 games to go and still a lot to play, the NHL has actually set records for attendance this season, and that's good. You're talking about a season, you're talking about a league that took 2 major black eyes and underwent massive restructuring in order for it to remain a functional sport in which a lot of fans got turned off and turned away from it. You know? So, let's see. Okay? Now that people are starting to come back, the speed of the game, the fluidity of the game, the only thing that I would like to see, this might not be a very popular take, but I would like to see the NHL increase the size of the rink to international size. I think that the increased ice surface, sort of what they play in World Cup, what they play in the International Ice Hockey Federation, what they play in the Olympics, that could definitely make things more interesting. Really could. That should help with home ice advantage, baby. Hey, listen, the New York Rangers have the best home ice record at home. My son and I were looking it up last night on Wikipedia. They're like 38-11 at home, or like 30-11. It's like ridiculous. So yeah, you would say as long as they're playing in Madison Square Garden, hell yeah. So, but the reason why I say home ice advantage is not all it's cracked up to be, because the Rangers had never lost a Game 7 in Madison Square Garden until a few years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals, where they faced the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the Rangers squandered a 3-2 lead. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. Home ice advantage sometimes works, and sometimes it doesn't. Also, think about this. Here's some other food for thought. The Bruins had home ice advantage. They played 7 games against the Florida Panthers. That game went to double overtime. Just think about that. Great comment, though, Fluid. Thank you so much. I think the NHL and some other sports are seeing a leap because of all the extra mediocrity we're seeing in some other popular sports. I sometimes seemingly political. No fun league. Yes, of course. It's my boy J Trey. Dude, man, if I would have known you were free tonight, I would have told you to come on with me. We would have had a blast. I hope you're coming on tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's gonna be fun. But yeah, I mean, here's the difference between the NHL and everybody else. The parity within the NHL is more engaging because you have smaller market teams that their fans are actually are getting behind their franchises, sort of like Arizona, okay? Although they're going to be, they're going to be relocating. As a matter of fact, I need to look that up where they are relocating, because that's going to drive me nuts. Arizona Coyotes. Matter of fact, it was just there. Arizona Coyotes moving. Leaving Arizona. Why the Coyotes are moving to Utah? Because Arizona doesn't care enough about hockey to keep them there. And it was all about the arena. It was all about just putting in money. This is the funny thing. And you know what? It's funny. And again, I want to make a quick point about this because we're coming up on the 55-minute mark. So we got about 5 minutes left in the show. So there's a lot that I want to get out there. So take a look at Atlanta. Atlanta gets relocated, right? The Thrashers. The Thrashers were a good franchise. They were that franchise where They weren't great, but they weren't a doormat. But they were competitive enough that they gave the toughest teams fits. Okay? So there you go. All right? So now, think about the relocation. What was it? 95. All right? The Quebec Nordiques, the original Winnipeg Jets, they came down. Tampa was its own separate team. The Florida Panthers were the actual Quebec. No, they weren't the Quebec Nordiques. They were the old Winnipeg Jets. The Colorado Avalanche are the old Quebec Nordiques. Oh, yeah. Go and look it up. So, yeah, there's realignment, reorganization, all kinds of stuff. The NHL needed to reorganize and realign everything in order for it to survive. And the reason being is because they had 2 lockouts. Just having a lockout in itself is just ridiculous. But having 2, and they're all under Gary Bettman's watch. So, yeah. I mean, they had a lockout the 94-95 season, in which they ended up playing a shortened season. All right. And then I want to say 2014, 2015, which is funny because I actually still have my t-shirt courtesy of WeBleedBlue.com. Go and check them out if you're a Rangers fan. They had actually had a long sleeve t-shirt that says, "I survived the lockout again." I still have that. All right, my boy J-Train. Sonja laughing hysterical over there. I told you it was going to be entertaining tonight. And here to go. They better pick another desert area. Utah. I see a name change coming. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing I don't know, Salt Lake City something, or they could call themselves the Utah Blizzard. I don't know. I'm just throwing names out there. I could honestly care less. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody taking the time out to watch me. I got about 2 minutes left before I sign off, so really quick, wrap it all up. Just remember, sports is sports. Sports is supposed to take us away from the ordeals of everyday life. You work a crappy job. Sometimes, you may be in a crappy situation. Sports, to me, is always the great equalizer. When we put politics in sports, when we put, race in sports, when we put different things, put religion in sports, it doesn't fit. Sports has a purity about itself that just, in plain, simple English, should not be messed with. And why they got to mess with it, I have no idea. But just let's keep sports what it is. Sports. The great equalizer which brings us all together. There's so much hate and so much disgust and everything else in the world. Let's focus on sports for a little while so we can forget all of that bullshit for a little bit, all right? Please, be good to one another. All right. With that, this has been Prim and Proper Sports here on Northeast Streaming Sports. My name is CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, host of Mission Briefs, Weapon Top Mission Briefs, which you can catch on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on Roku TV. I also have a YouTube channel. Most of the time I do shows from 9 to 9:35, 9:40 on the YouTube channel, and then going into my Roku. So I invite you guys to come and check it out. Of course, don't forget to check out Northeast Streaming Sports. Tremendous lineup. We have a tremendous crew. Mac and Company, the Northeast Professional Sports Show tomorrow night. It's going to be fun. Be sure to go and tune us in. Hopefully, Sonja will be better enough. Thank you, J-Train and Sonja and everybody who chimed in tonight on the comments. I appreciate you guys so much. Peace and love. Be good to one another. And thank you again. Have a great night.